Let's build an AI chatbot. It's like the hello world of AI applications, and I am excited for you to get to create one. Of course, if this is you saying hello world to building your first web app, we'll get that all set up for you too. Oh shoot, I should introduce myself. Hey there, I'm Craig, and I'm a developer. This tutorial is part of a series. There are notes attached to this video, and in those notes, there's an introductory welcome video that sets the tone for what we're about to get into. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd love it if you checked it out. If you don't got time for that, I get it. I'm doing my best here to bring folks who are building apps with some of these amazing vibe coding tools, but might not yet have the fundamentals. Now, if this isn't you, feel free to speed me up and check the chapters. I labeled them pretty good. Jump around. I'm going to be expecting you to have a GitHub account, a Cloudflare account, and Node, and an editor installed. All of the links and instructions for those are in the notes. In this tutorial, we are going to build an AI chatbot from scratch. We'll build the backend API, and then we'll generate a front end for you to consume that API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and we'll dive into that a bit more as we go. And we're going to build an API where we can control the system message. Control the tone and behavior of how you want the chat app to behave. Let's explore that first in a working app that you'll have by the end of this tutorial. All right, so here we are. This is a bare bones chat app, and you'll see that by default, it's defaulted to you are a helpful assistant. And if we text hello to that, we're going to send that, and we're going to send it. It says, hello, it's nice to meet you. There's something I can help you with. So we now have a working chatbot, and this is the default that most of them have, but actually you can change these, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click this New Yorker here. So you're a longtime New Yorker, you speak with a thick accent, you are helpful eventually, but often want to rile people up. So what's really powerful about these system messages is you can define the behavior and how you want it to behave, right? So let's do that. So let's think, how can we do that? So I married into the New York thing, so I'm allowed to say that. I think a lot of New Yorkers are proud that they're kind of in this way. They get stereotyped as being rude, but I think they really like to have fun with this. So how could I really? Oh, this would work. Where is the Pizza Hut in Times Square? Pretend to be a tourist here and ask that of a New Yorker and see what they say. They might say something like, what do you mean you can't find the Pizza Hut in Times Square? Forget about it. You tell me you're living in this city for years and you don't know what the Pizza Hut is? All right, cool. So it's taking the information that it has and it's bringing it into this system that we created, right? We made this system message, and that's really fun. Feel free to play around with that, see what else you can do with that New Yorker. And you can also write your own of these as well. I want to show you up the karaoke wizard as well. So you're a karaoke pro. You love to give people suggestions of what to sing, right? So you share YouTube links like this, and then karaoke plus the name of the band and their song name URL encoded. That's the way that will generate these things for us. And you encourage them to practice with YouTube. So I'd like to sing a punk song. I really want to sing one at karaoke. So let's see what this karaoke wizard says for me. Punk is a great job. How about singing Blitzkrieg Bop? What a great idea. And I can grab this and you'll notice that, this isn't fully linked out here. That's because we haven't done this in Markdown, but it's still working. We still got back this information. I'm going to go here. We're going to paste that over here. And sure enough, look, if you do that, if you search for karaoke and here's Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, and we look in here, we've got all of our lyrics, a nice karaoke song, right? Awesome. So super fun. I would love for you to come in here, and we're going to build this locally, and you can play around with what these are. And typically this would be hidden on the back, but we put it on the front here so you could play around and try different things out, because that's the best way to learn, right? Explore. Pretty awesome, right? Now, you might hear the term of a GPT wrapper. And typically when they say that, that's when someone's written a very smart system prompt that makes the chatbot work in a specific way within specific constraints. All right, let me show you how I start my projects from scratch. Okay, so if you do not yet have Node.js installed on your machine, this is where you would go, nodejs.org, depending on whatever language you're on and whatever system you're running as well. You can go ahead and find the right thing that you need to do here. This will always look a little bit different. Your version's always going to be a little bit different. But after you go and get it installed and check the notes if you need that, I want you to show you how I normally do a Cloudflare project. So there is a package manager called Node Package Manager, npm. And if you do create, I'm going to say Cloudflare at latest. This will run through and spin up a nice little wizard for us to build some stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, it's okay to proceed. Again, this is probably going to look totally different. So we're just going to call this, I'm going to call this thing Chatty. That's the name of the app that I want to call this thing. I want to call it Chatty. And Hello World example is a great thing to do. You can actually go through, there's different frameworks and things. If you go, you can use your up, down arrows to go through here. I'm going to do the Hello World example. So Hello World is kind of when you start out a program, it's the first thing that you typically write to the screen. And I'm just going to use the default, this SSR, server-side rendering full stack app. I'm just going to choose that. Again, this might just look completely different, but I'm just going to choose the defaults here. And I'm going to choose TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript, which gives you stronger types and then will help us with some autocomplete stuff. I'll show you how it all works. Cool. So it's going to go and it's going to install stuff. It's going to install the things that we need to run for us, including a command line tool called Wrangler, which we're going to use to run some things. And we are going to use Git. I'd like to say yes, that you do want to use Git. And I don't think we should deploy our application just yet. We should probably take a look at what it is, right? So we're going to say no. And so I'm on a Mac and I'm going to get into that directory. So this is my terminal here. I guess I probably should have introduced at the start of this. So this is my terminal on a Mac. If you command space on a Mac and type terminal, you will find a thing like this. And then on Windows, and in fact, just check the notes for the best way to open up your terminal. And I'm going to change the directory into that directory that we just made, which was called Chatty. And so now that I'm here, I'm going to open up my development environment. I could run some stuff here if I wanted to, but I want to open this up in my Visual Studio Code. So again, check the notes if you don't have a code editor, and also check the notes if you want to learn how to do this. So I want to open up my editor in this directory. So I'm going to do code space period. So this directory, I want to open up code. So here we go. Here's a program called Chatty that we have, and you'll see that it created some nice scaffolding on the side here. And I'm going to open up here. I'm going to open up this source, and I'm going to open up index.ts. So this is the worker. This is the Cloudflare worker that's running a function for us here. And let's take a look and see what happens when we actually run the server. And the way that you do that, I'm going to open up, I also have a terminal here. So you can say terminal, new terminal. I'm going to collapse these little options here that we have just so we're right here. Okay, so to start that up, I'm going to do npm run dev to start the development server. And you'll see that it says I can press B to open a browser, and it's going to be open on this localhost 8787. So I'm going to press B, and we'll see we have our hello world. And if I do this, I can see that it gets this random ID. Let's take a look at the code that is generating that. So first off, what's happening is this is the function signature that you need to run one of these servers. And if something is going to /message, it will say hello world. And if something's going to /random, it's showing the crypto random, and otherwise it's saying not found. And so this is the backend server that's running. And then we also have this front end server that's running, this index.html. And you'll note here's the hello world. And so let's just go ahead. Let's change this a little bit. I'm going to save it. And you'll notice that it did a hot reload there. So the server reloaded, and now I should have, I changed the title. So see the title is hello world with three exclamation points there. I actually meant to change. So the heading is coming in automatically. It's using this thing called fetch. So it says fetch the message and then get back the response text and set it in the H1. So the H1 is this thing called heading here. It's this element called heading, and it is setting that heading there. And if we look, when it's saying fetch /message, it's saying fetch to the backend server, right? The backend server here is this /message. So it's a little bit of an API, right? So it's got if I go /message, I will get hello world. And in fact, watch this. If I come here and I say /message, I should see back hello world. So I do see hello world when I go to /message. And what's happening is this front end is pulling in that hello world. And of course, the /random is being called, and that's being called because it's clicking a button, right? So it says this random button, its ID is random. And so it says button dot, when click happens, fetch the random, get the text back, set the text content to random, and that's why we see that random number come across, and that's coming here from this random UUID. So again, on the client side, it's doing a fetch. And if I come up here and I say view developer, and I say developer tools, it's going to open up this side panel over here. And if I go to this network, you can see that when I refresh this page, you'll see that it comes in. There it is. It hit the message and it got back hello world. So we go to the message and then we go to response, and you'll see that it came back hello world. And if I click this random, you'll see that here's the request for that random, and here's the response that came back from that random. So it's making a web request to our backend. Awesome. So what we want to do now, we have all of this default things here. This gets a little unwieldy, as you can imagine, if you have a lot of different endpoints that you want to do. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to write an API. I want to write an application programming interface. And I find one of the best ways to do that is to use a web framework. So I'm going to use my favorite web framework. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab all of the code in here. So I'm going to do a Command A or a Control A, and I'm just going to press delete. I have emptied out that entire file. I'm going to stop the server from running. I'm going to do that with Control C to stop the server from running. And now I'm going to install, I'm going to use that same node package manager, npm install. I'm going to install Hono, which means flare in Japanese. So there we go. So I have installed Hono. And Hono looks like this. And all this code's available in the repo. If I do, I'm going to do import. I'm going to import Hono from Hono. I press tab and it automatically did that. That's a nice auto completion that knew what was happening there. So I'm going to import Hono. And the way that Hono works is you make a new app, and we're going to make a new Hono, new one of those. And I am going to export default app. Now that is what you need. Oh, it's a new Hono. Const app equals new Hono. This code is available if you need to copy and paste. I know that sometimes it can be hard to hit exactly what you're trying to do here. So I'm going to make a new app. I'm going to return that app. And we're going to do app.get. So we're going to talk about, we want to do a get request to it, right? So just by going to the URL, and let's just make a new, an API we're going to make a new one called /API. And when that happens, we want to say, we'll call it hello, app hello. And that takes this callback, and I know I'm writing a bunch of stuff there, but this is going to take this callback. So this is going to take this asynchronous callback, and we'll talk about what that is here in a second. And we're just going to take this object called a C for the context. The Hono context is what we want there. So I'm just going to return right away. I'm going to return c.json. So we know about JSON. I'm going to return back some JSON, and I'm just going to make, we'll make this say hello. Make a new object here that says hello world. Okay, so now that I have that running, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my server. I'm going to do npm run dev, and I am going to go here to my local host, and I am going to say, and you see the not found, right? Because I got rid of the API that was there, but we're going to go to API/hello, API/hello, and we get back our hello world. And we get back, it's in proper JSON, right? So it took that object and it turned it into JSON. So that's a really nice thing that Hono does for us automatically, is it takes the results and turns it into JSON, and that's what we can use locally on the client side. It makes it very easy to read, right? And it's kind of the common language of these APIs, right? Oftentimes you're going to go make a request to an API and you're going to get back JSON, or you're going to tell it to go do something. You're going to go make a change or something, and it will return back JSON. So this is a way that you can interact, and we're going to build our own API. Most sites that you look at have these APIs, tons of external tools, but they can be internal too. Like you can have APIs that you're using internally as well. And for more information on APIs, I'm going to say it again, just check the notes. I want to show off one of the ways that APIs work internally for Cloudflare for your apps that you're using, because it's interesting. It's a little bit different than how you might have seen things before in the past. So what I want to do is I want to use AI. I want to use AI in this. I want to use a model. And let's say instead of saying hello world, why don't we make it so that it says we generate hello world in a bunch of different languages, right? Because we can do that. We can generate with generative AI, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to go into my Wrangler JSON C file. It's over here on the left. And Wrangler is how we control the application that's here. So Wrangler will run stuff. When we did this npm run dev, it actually did a Wrangler dev, right? So it starts the development server. And this is kind of where you do the configuration. So you do this Wrangler JSON C. C there is means that you can do comments in it. Normally you can't do comments in a file. So this lets you put comments in your JavaScript object notation, your JSON. All right, so we're going to add a new binding here, and I am going to, right, so I did a comma, and then I'm going to add this AI, and we're going to do a binding with the name of AI. Now, believe it or not, that is enough to start using AI with Cloudflare, which is really cool, super powerful. So that's going to get access to our account, right? Because our account knows who we are, or will here in a second. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let TypeScript know that this exists because we want to have some auto completion. So here, check this out. So I'm going to go, I'm going to stop the server and I'm going to say npx because I want to execute locally here. I'm going to execute that Wrangler command and I'm going to do types. So I'm just showing you how you can run Wrangler here locally, npx Wrangler types. And so that generated, and now we're able to access this AI. There's going to be a binding with the name of AI. And let me show you where that lives. So what we're going to do is we're going to get back results from this method that is off c.env. So that's the environment. And the way that you get the environment into Hono is by specifying it. So we're going to say that the bindings are env here in this Hono definition. And so now when I do c.env, you'll see that I have the bindings that I've done. So I've bound to this AI, which is the worker's AI, which gives us access to that. And on that, there is a method. There's actually quite a few methods now that says run. And so we're going to run, and I'm going to run llama 4 scout. That's the model ID that I want from Meta. That's just what we're going to use for this example. Again, you're in the future, there's probably different models. This one is the one that I want to start using here. You could use any model here as well. You don't even need to use ours if you don't want to, but this is the worker's AI way of doing things. So we're going to come in here, and it takes some parameters. It takes some options, right? And one of the options that it takes is one that's called prompt. And we are going to prompt say hello world in 5 different spoken languages. So that's the prompt that we're going to do. And so we have the results, and we're going to get those back, are going to come back here. Let's just write them out. Let's write them out to the screen so that we can see what that says. So I'm going to say results. I'm going to save that. And so now we have at the API, we're going to get back the results of this API call, right? This call here to this run method. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to do npm run dev. Now, if you haven't logged in before, you are going to hit this page, and it might take a second. And if it does, it might require you to come over here and choose your account. So I'm choosing my account here, and it might ask you to log in. If it does, you will go log in. You'll see that I did a get to /API hello, and I got back a 200 OK, which is exactly what we want to see. And here we go. So we got back a JSON object, and it says, let's do this pretty print. It's got a response, and we got hello world. Okay, different languages. With Spanish, we have hola mundo. In French, we have bonjour le monde. We have ni hao, and we have, I'm not sure how to do this in Arabic. Portuguese, hola mundo as well. I hope that those are correct. And you get back some additional information about like what was done with that AI call. But as you can see, we have in our file here, we have defined a successful first API.
With our first API built, we're ready to build our AI chatbot. We're going to use an open source model that is hosted on Workers AI to complete this. We have a pretty generous free tier, so you should be able to do this without entering a credit card. So the Workers AI platform has an API that we're going to use in our API. It's kind of like that spinny top Leo DiCaprio flick, API-ception. No. This happens a bunch in the AI app world.
You take input from the user and you pass that to an AI model API and you get the output and you pass that back. So let's do that.
Okay, so we have a API endpoint for API hello, and we are using our API from Cloudflare inside of here. So let's do, what we want to do is we want to take input from a user. And typically when you do that, you want them to send you something and you want them to, they're usually changing something. And the way that you do that is with the HTTP verb called post. So they're going to post information to us. So instead of get, right? So we're doing app.get, and that's when we were doing a get to /API/hello. Now we're going to do a post. So instead of using the URL to do that, we're going to need to have a different way of doing that. So we're going to say /API/chat, and we're going to follow that same pattern where we're going to give it an asynchronous context there with a callback. The way that we're going to handle stuff is we're going to pass a JSON payload. We're going to post a JSON payload with information to our API. That's how we're going to let people interact. So the way that that looks is we're going to say const, and we're going to get a thing back. We're going to call it payload, and we're going to say c.rec.json. Okay, so we're going to get back, we're going to pull back this JSON object, and it's going to be, we're going to call it payload. Let's just right away, we'll just output that back, right back to the user, right? So we're going to send back JSON of what that payload is. So whatever it is, we're just basically doing a little echo here first, just to make sure that it works. So now we have an interesting problem. We have, how do we make this post without having a front end? And one of the things, there's a couple of ways that you could do it. There's a couple of REST browsers that you could do. There's a command line option that's called curl. Check the notes for both of those. So if you wanted to, you could do like an app like a Postman sort of thing where you could go and test sending information back and forth. One of the things that I think is really handy is there's a little application that's called HTTPie. So if you go to HTTPie, that's what we want. And it's an API testing that flows with you is what it's called. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to go to the terminal section here. This might look different. Check the notes for this. And if I go to this install, it will show you all the different ways that you can install it. So of course, if you're coming in from a different way, there's a bunch of different ways to install here. Check the notes for what's right for you, but this brew install HTTPie is probably what you're doing on a Mac. There's Choco if you're on Windows, but definitely check the notes here. Let's see if there's learn more, and they can kind of walk you through how to go about doing that. And then after you get that installed, you'll have a executable on your machine that's called HTTP. Let me show you what that feels like to use. So another thing that I'm going to show off here is I'm going to keep my server running, right? And so when I saved, it reloaded my local server. I'm going to make a new terminal. So I'm going to have two terminals. So you'll see here I have this is my first one, and this is my second one here. And I wanted to just have this running so I could show you two terminals running at once. You could open up a new terminal window too if you wanted to, if you have a different editor. So if we do HTTP, and we're going to say that we're going to do a get, and we're going to go to HTTP localhost 8787, because that's where the server's at, right? So localhost 8787. And if I come back here, and I'm going to go to /API/hello, and we should get back the results of this, right? This in JSON. One of the nice things about HTTP is it color codes it for you. I think that's very nice. So we got hello world in English, and yeah, it's doing it again. Awesome. Super cool, right? But what we want to do is we want to do a post to our new one that we just added, and we're going to see what this payload is. So let's do that. So this is pretty cool. So if I go HTTP post, then I put in the server again. Again, that's localhost. That's my local server, and it's on port 8787 is what got started when I started the server. And we're going to do API chat. And really neat, by default, anything that you put after this are just parameters that it will pass. So you could say hello world, and then anything you pass after this, it'll keep doing that. So you see that it does hello world. You can do like a first name. And you could do more advanced stuff too, more deeper ways of doing that. But it's doing the pass through, right? So it's pulling that. I'm submitted. So I'm going to post JSON into that thing to get it back. So let's see if we can't just pass in a prompt, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to grab this, right? And so instead hard coding in there, hard coding that AI call, what we'll do is we will do const results, and we'll get back results here. And we know that results is going to have that response, so we can even actually say results.response. And we'll say, instead of this payload, we'll say the payload payload.prompt, right? So we're going to say the prompt that we're going to do is we're going to pass in what came through this payload. We're going to pass it into this prompt, right? And then we're going to return the response back there. Let's see what happens there. So if we put in a prompt, and we could say, write a poem about New York pizza. Now I don't have the system message in there just yet, but I'm gonna just prompt for the thing by default just to see what the thing about New York pizza is. Oh wow! So in the city that never sleeps, there's a pie that's made to keep the flavors of Italy's heart, and every slice a work of art. Beautiful, nice little poem. It could do that. It could do that sort of stuff, and it knows about New York pizza. So you now have an API that you can go where you can post information to this. And the other thing that I wanted to show off is that you could also, if you were up in here, if you're up in this code here, you can do a console .log if we ever wanted to see what that payload was. And we could say something like this: payload is, and then pass that payload in, right? So it'll log out whatever this payload was. So let's I'm going to save that, and it's going to refresh. We refresh the server here. So, and then let's ask for another poem about New York pizza. It's going to do a post. And if we look here, we'll say that we'll see the payload was prompt write a poem about New York pizza. Great. So we now have an API that can take input from a post.
Now, we really need to think about what a chat really is. It's the back and forth conversation between a user and an AI assistant. Now, typically, these are called messages, and you define them with roles and what content they provide. OpenAI standardized this, and there are a bunch of external model APIs that support a format that looks something like this. This is often called the messages list. See how the system message is defined, and then we saw what the user asked and how the assistant responded. To continue a conversation, you just need to make sure that the AI knows what was said in the past. So let's make sure that we can pass in a list of previous messages, and we should also pass in the system message as well.
So what we want to do is, instead of getting a prompt, we want to pass in all of the messages, right? So we want this payload's going to have messages. And instead of prompt here, we're going to have this messages, and this is going to equal payload messages. Okay. We'll start with that. We'll make sure that we can get that working. Okay, so the way that works in HTTP, so the way that you can make that work is if we go here, we would say messages, and you do a colon equals, then we'll do a single quote. And now we can use typical JSON in here. So again, what you want to do is you want to say the role is the user, and the content that we want to pass in is what we want it to build. And so I'm going to end that object. So it's an object that has role and user and content. And the content here, we will say, my favorite topping on pizza is pepperoni. So I've got this array. I've got an array of messages that I'm passing in. We'll make sure that this works properly. So we're going to output what the payload was, and it should have a property called messages that is an array right now of only one messenger. So let's send that across. And we'll see that it responded back, right? So it took the response. This is a classic choice. Pepperoni is a popular pizza topping for a reason. It adds a nice spicy kick and a meaty flavor to the pizza. So I'm just going to say a classic choice is what it said back. So if you haven't seen this before, I'm going to use the up arrow, and it will go into the history of what was left here. So now I'm going to give it another message, and I'm going to say role, and this is what it returned back, right? So it returned back this assistant, and I'm going to give it a property here of content, and I'm going to paste there. A classic choice is what it said. And so because it's a conversation, and because I'm pushing that information forward, I can do this. I can say, we're going to ask another question, right? So the last question here will be from a user. And the content is going to ask, what is my favorite? Right? So it's going to know, it's going to remember, but not really, because it's part of the conversation, right? It was having a conversation, so of course it's going to be able to remember. So we're going to say my favorite topping on pizza is pepperoni. It's going to be like a classic choice, and then it's going to return this and ask, what is my favorite topping? And it should return back something about pepperoni if we got it working right. Awesome. So we've stored the conversational context in this array that we're just going to pass up each time, right? So we're going to pass that array up, and we're going to pass that array into here. But one of the other types of messages that you can pass across is that system message that we were playing with, right? So the system message in the beginning where we were talking about how we wanted it to talk, right? We made it be the New Yorker or the karaoke wizard. We probably want to have a field for that. So we want in the payload, we'll pass up the messages, and then we'll also pass up the system message. I like to put the system message first of all the messages so that it kind of defines the behavior for how the conversation should behave. So the way that you could do that, this is a thing called JavaScript destructuring. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go like this. I'm going to pull messages off. If there's a property called messages, it will be stored in a variable called messages. And I'm also going to store one here called system message. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pass up messages and system messages. And this is just going to pull it off of this JSON object here. And so now we have, instead of the payload here like this, instead of payload, because I don't have the payload variable anymore, that's what that squiggle's about, we're going to say is messages, system message like that. And so we can, with JavaScript also, because it's got the same name, this is equivalent to this messages. So we'll just do this messages like that. And let's see if there is a system message, right? So we'll say if there is a system message, what we want to do is we want to add that. So we want to say messages.unshift. So that means that we'll put it at the start of the array. We're going to make a system message. The role is system, but spelled right, system. And the content is going to be whatever that system message was, right? So we've added a new object with a system message at the front, right? So this unshift, we'll put it at the front of it. So now it's got the messages there. So another thing we can do is there's some different properties here. We can make this longer if we wanted to. Max tokens, let's just let it as long as it needs to be. So we'll say max tokens is 8,000. So let's go ahead and make sure that we can get the system message up there. So we'll just start from again with HTTP post. We'll do HTTP localhost 8787 API chat. And again, we're going to pass up the messages array, right? And the messages look like this. It's going to be an array, and we're going to say role of user and the content. Now, this is called the chat style, and lots of APIs use this. So learning this will help. So we're going to do content, and the content here is hello. We're just going to say hello to it. And we also want to pass along the other variable that we want is one that's called system message, right? So we're going to pull that off as well. And so the system message that we want, let's see, you speak only in Pig Latin. So that'll be fun. So I'm going to send a chat. I'm going to say hello. Let's see what he comes back and says. Hello, hey. Perfect.
So now we have a couple of options. We could store these messages, the chat history, if you will, on the server side. But for simplicity's sake, let's keep them all on the client. If you're interested in learning how to store messages on the server side, check the notes for more information. So now I'm going to use AI to make our front end. If you want to skip this part, the repo is available and has a pretty nice, already cooked up front end. Feel free to jump there.
Okay, so this is a little wild. We're going to use, the saying, we're going to build the airplane in mid-flight. In this situation, we're going to build the airplane with the airplane mid-flight. So we don't have a front end, but we're going to make one. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to try and see if this works. I'm pretty sure it will. AI is a little funny, right? It's always going to be a little bit different, but because we're using the same model that I am, this should be pretty similar to what's going to happen. So I want to do that HTTP post like we just did, right? So I'm going to use my up arrow to get in there, and I'm going to get rid of the system message. We're not going to pass a system message in this time, because what we are going to pass in is this. So we're going to pass in messages, and I have in my clipboard, I've got this, and we are going to read it. And it is, you're going to read this. We're going to read this together here. Let's get into it. It's kind of wild that we could do this, right? Let's remember what we're doing before we get frustrated by what this looks like. We're going to write code. We're going to have the LLM is going to write us code. And what it's going to do is it's going to say, write a simple chatbot website front end that submits a messages array via a post to API chat. That's what we just did, right? We made API chat, and we want to submit the messages array. Now, this is, like I said, it's common enough. It knows what that is. The app is titled Chatty, right? Store the messages on the client side. So we've made that decision. Instead of storing it in the database or anything, we just wanted to write the front end for us. So the message object has a role of user or assistant. Clearly delineate the message by role. The message object has a property called content, which is the message to display. So we've been very, very specific. Probably didn't need to be so specific, but I wanted to be. And I wanted for when you run this, for it to work for you the same way that it's kind of working for me. So the response from API chat will have a key called response, which will be the assistant message. Generate all HTML, CSS, and JS. Additionally, add an admin section with the ability to add a system message text area that will submit along with the post to API chat named system message, right? So that was, remember on our original Chatty app that we had running over here, we look at this Chatty app, we could see that this is the section that I'm talking about, and we're going to have some buttons there, and we're just going to tell it that later we'll do it. Default it to you are a helpful assistant, and create example buttons that will fill in system messages area on the client side, and I will create the examples later. This prompt is in the notes, exactly in the notes like this. So I'm just going to run this once and we'll just see what happens. Didn't like something. Let's do that. There we go. It's running. Long instructions, but I did give it a lot of max tokens, right? So I said the max tokens at 80,000. So we've got a lot of stuff to work with here. Awesome. So it did return a bunch of stuff, and I'm realizing now that it returned it as a string, and that's not really what we want, right? We want to probably put this out into a file. So check this out. So instead of returning JSON, let's return text. So we're just going to return straight text. So what will happen is it will run this, and it will run it. And if you haven't seen this before, this is pretty cool. You can pipe. So after a command, you can pipe it to something. So I'm going to say app dot markdown. So markdown is a way of writing things, and it's the way that this is going to return information typically. So it's a way of rendering, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. So I'm going to say do that again, but this time write it to a new file called app.md. So this will help us save it and take a look at things and see it actually what it said instead of that stuff there. It's kind of a nice way to clean it up. So I'm going to send it there, and because I have an editor that I can edit MD files, it's writing, it's going to write to that file. It's going to take the results, the text results, and it's going to put it into that file. And there we go. So let's take a look and see what happened. Wow, it looks like I might have started. So it's telling us that we have a file called index.html, and it should be called Chatty. It's got a thing called styles, CSS. It says type a message, and there's a send button, admin section, and there's example 1, 2, and 3, and then it's got a script.js. And then you'll see here in Markdown, like this is a heading for CSS, and this is how it does the code. And the reason why color coding is working, which is why I wanted to put it into a file, is so that we can see what's happening. So these are styles. It even made a nice little style looking thing there. And then it drops some of the JavaScript here. So there's the JavaScript. So I think we should try to see if this works. And of course, it's AI. It might be a little bit different each time it runs. But let's see how close we got to the way that Chatty looked when we get started. So I'm going to highlight this, right? So I'm going to highlight all of this stuff. So I'm holding down Shift and pressing the arrow keys as I do that. That's how I did that. And I'm going to Command C. I'm going to go into index.html over here. This is this public slash public index.html. This is the original hello world that came with the starter, right? So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna paste our HTML, and we have a file that's called styles.css. So I'm gonna make a new file called styles.css, and I'm gonna grab from my app.md file, I'm gonna grab what that should be. Again, highlighting with holding down Shift and going down to where it ends, the way that it ends, and mark down. See that the triple backtick is how it's doing that. So I'm going to copy that, jump in styles, paste, save that file, and I'm going to do it one more time for our JavaScript. I'm going to grab the JavaScript here. Now, in code generation tools these days, it will go ahead and automatically modify your files. This is kind of a throwback to how when we first realized that we could do something like this, we did a lot of this, copy and paste. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to put this over into script.js. We're going to call it script.js, and I'm going to paste there. So that's my JavaScript there. Wouldn't it be wild if this worked? So let's take a look. It's always a good idea to take a look at what things are doing, right? So let's see. So it's going to do a fetch, right? We saw that in the beginning here. So it's doing a fetch to API chat, and it's going to make a post, and it's going to post application JSON, and it's going to pass across this messages, and it's going to pass across the system message. And the messages is just local in memory here, and then system messages, it looks like it's getting from an element called system message ID. So it converted pretty well what I asked to happen. This is the JavaScript that's on the client side that's going to post to our API. And I think, let's do it. Let's see. So the server's still running, but in case your server failed or something along the way there, if you do npm run dev, you can start that again. All right, are you ready? I'm a little nervous. I'm always a little nervous when you first go to look at it. Let's see what it looks like. That looks pretty similar to what I had in the beginning, and that's because the prompt is the same, right? So it's very similar to the prompt. I hope this works. So I'm gonna say, hello, fingers crossed. That's a big send button. Let's see. Oh no, it didn't work. What happened? It said hello is not valid JSON. So let's see if we can figure out what's happening on our side. You know what I bet? I bet we left it as text, right? That's what happened. So in inner source, in the index, remember we said set c.text. I'm going to say JSON, and instead of returning, I'm just going to return it all. Instead of just the response, we're just going to return all of the results, like whatever's there. Because I said that, remember when I said in my prompt, I said that it has a key called response. So this results.response is what it's going to use. Let's try that again. All right, no whammies. Whoo, we got it. Let's make sure our system message is working. You talk like a baby. Tell me about pizza. Do babies like pizza? I don't know. You notice it's taken some time, but it is running. At least I hope it is. Woo. It doesn't sound much like a baby, does it? Let's see. Let's go take a look at our code and see if it's working. So the messages is that, and the system message was you are a helpful assistant. So it didn't send you are a baby. So let's try that again. I wonder why that didn't work. You talk like a baby. Tell me about pizza. Let's go look and see if it came through again. It's still saying you are a helpful assistant. So something's wrong with the JavaScript. Let's see if we can't figure that out. Sometimes this happens. So I'm going to find system message. Every time system message is talked by, and it says get element by ID system message, and it's not doing that each time. So what needs to happen is we either need to do it when it changes, or we're just going to copy this. And when we're going through to send the message, we're going to do it in here too. So I think we probably could just say const system message here. So yeah, oh, you know what? It's probably better to do this. System message equals this. Let it do a let, because we're doing the sets on the other side. So let's try that. I'm going to say I saved that. Notice it refreshed by itself. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to refresh.
You talk like a baby. And I want you to tell me about pizza, baby. What an adorable baby. Oh, so crust crunching. Best me. Okay. Wow. All right. So very close to working, but something that you might run into, right? As you're generating things like this, one of the things that we could have done is we could have said, hey, it's not working. The system message isn't going, and give it the code and it would fix it. Maybe that's something that we could do. In fact, I don't know if you noticed this, but it was kind of taking a while, wasn't it? So there is a way to make this faster. Let's take a look at that. Pretty awesome, eh? Things are looking pretty good. You could add the system message editor if you wanted to, or you could just keep that all on the server side. Now, the last thing that we might want to do is make it so things appear to move faster. We can use what is known as streaming. We can stream a token at a time. Let's stream. Right, so let's get this streaming. It works actually pretty much the same. In fact, so much that I'm going to do one of the developers' favorite things. I'm going to do copy pasta. So I'm going to copy exactly what we had there and paste it. Now, instead of being called API chat, I'm going to call it API chat streaming. Now, believe it or not, in order to make it stream, all you need to do is pass it a new parameter, and that's true, stream of true. But we get a little bit of a different way to handle this. So when we do that, when we do a result, we do a stream, what we're getting back is we're not getting back results. We're getting back what's known as server sent events. It's a stream of server sent events, or SSE. And you can handle that a little bit differently. And one of the really nice things about Hono is that it kind of has a nice thing there for you. So we're going to do this thing called stream text. And that is from Hono. So that came in here from Hono. And I'm also going to use another library here. It's actually suggesting it. Fetch event stream. So I'm going to do npm install fetch event stream. This is in the notes as well. So an event stream, right? That's the stream of things that come across. It's kind of a little challenging to use. So there's a really nice library that I like to use. Not everybody does. You can do it yourself if you wanted to. I think it makes it a lot easier if you just do this. So stream text takes two things. It takes the context and it takes a callback. And that callback takes a new object called stream, which is what we're going to get from Hono is going to pass this stream in it. And anything that we write out to that stream, that's the response, will be written out to the response. So what happens is the request happens and it gets a handle of the stream. And then on the other end, we have to process it. So let's do that really quick. So this looks like this. So we're gonna get chunks back from that stream. And we are going to do that by using that events. And the events is from it's a server sent event message, and this is coming from that package that we just installed. This is very nice. So we're going to say new response, and it gives you back this iterable, and I'm going to pass in the result stream because it takes a response stream. So it takes a response, and I'm going to give it the new response that we had, and it's going to process that here locally for us. And then we're going to do a yield of that. So we're going to do this await for await. So an asynchronous loop through this. We're going to do const chunk of chunks, the chunk of chunks. And then let's log it out so we can see what it looks like. We'll just show that off a little bit here. And so that chunk object has a couple things. It has a thing called data on it. So if we have chunk.data, right? We want to make sure that we have it. If it's not undefined, right? Not equal to undefined. And the very last chunk, when you know that it's time to stop, it looks like this. So if it's not, and it's not equal to, it's a string that looks like this. This is just kind of a strange way that it looks, but it says done when it's all done. So that's a way that you know that the thing is done. And then if we do have that, the chances are that we have this data, right? So we're gonna parse that. So we're gonna get json.parse, and it looks like chunk.data, and each one of these data has a response. So let's just be very clear. So I'm going to get a token, right? So this returns a token at a time, right? So this is like the suggest token, right? When you hear about that, it's going to return back from response. It is a token at a time. So what we'll do then is if the token exists, right? If it does exist, we are going to
use that stream that was passed to us, right? The stream from Hono, stream.write, and we're going to pass that token. And you know what? Just in case, I'm going to do toString, just in case it comes back as a number. There's nothing saying that it was that. So I want to stream text. So I just want to make sure that it's a string that's coming across. So that is it. That's what we need to do. Let's walk that one more time. So I've got this Hono reply here. That's the stream, and it's going to pass this across. We're going to make a new response from the result stream that we got, right? Because now that we're doing stream.true, we have this result stream. And so this is a server sent event, and this event helps turn it into objects that we can yield across, right? So that's what this for await chunk of chunks. So chunks is this iterator, and we're getting one of these chunks each time. I'll show you what it looks like. And then I want to make sure that it has what we need and that it's not the last one, because if it's the last one, we don't want to write the word done out. That's kind of all the problem that usually happens. So now what we have very nicely on the other end. Now you could do this in the client side, but I like to do this on the server side because I think that it's easier to debug when there's a problem, and this pattern's pretty common. One more thing that I like to do is I like to set this header here. All of this is in the notes, but I like to set the content encoding header to identity. And this will help it so that things stream properly when we're in dev mode here. It's just a little hack, if you will. I'm going to actually write that. So we stream properly in dev mode. There we go. All right. So we can now try this, right? So we can go and we can see, we're going to say HTTP post, and we're going to go to our post there, localhost 8787, and we have API chat streaming now. Right? So we have a streaming chat, and we're going to do messages, and the messages are equal to an array of messages, and the role is user, and the content, what should we say? What is the advice a Ghostbuster would give you about streams? That's pretty dorky. All right, there we go. So we're going to pass that messages array. We're not going to pass a system message, and we are passing it to streaming. And because I logged out the chunks, we should see that there. Let's make sure that we've got our server running. Oh, I ran that in the wrong one. So I'm going to do npm run dev to get the server running. And I'm going to move this above it. I'll move this below it. There we go. So now I'm going to run this, and we should see back the joke. Wow, it came back pretty quick. Puts on the Ghostbusters jumpsuit. When it comes to streams, here's what I say: don't cross the streams. That's what I was trying to say. Don't cross the streams. That's the joke I was trying to make. But it made a lot more about it. I guess it knows better than I do. But this is what came across, and you'll see that the data has this response object, right? So that's what this response here is, and it's the token. It's this who you gonna call. Right, and the token is what's coming across there. So what we want to do now is we want to have the front end be able to do this. So let's get our app to use our new streaming API. So I'm going to head back over to the airplane that we're building while flying it, but I'm going to use the airplane to build the airplane that we're building while we're flying it. What could go wrong? So I have this client side chat app code, and I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to paste it all in there. We've got a large context window these days, right? So I'm able to put a bunch of information in there. So I'm just going to grab our current script, right? Because I want to change, I like what's working, but I want to change it a little bit, and you can do that, right? So I'm going to just go ahead, I'm going to put JavaScript, and then I'm going to paste that code, and then I'm going to end the code there. So we'll say I would like to instead use the API chat /streaming endpoint. I'm going to be really specific. I'm going to say use a reader and a text decoder to update the assistant message. So that is one way to do things. And because I have a text stream, I want it to be really clear that it's doing that. That's just from some experience there. This prompt, of course, as always, is in the notes. So I'm going to run this, and that's gross. We should definitely fix that. And it's going to come back, and you'll see now you can really feel it, right? Because it's cooking, it's thinking, and it came back, and it made a good thing. So it's saying that we need to change the send message function. Oh, you know what I should do? I'm going to copy this again. Because guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the system message there. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to paste that back in there. And we forgot to say you should only return the JavaScript code. Return all the code. No explanations. I'm going to just say that. We'll see if we can get what comes back there. Because as you saw, there was like a bunch of markdown in there. Let's hope that this works again. So we're going to send that again. It's cooking, it's thinking, it's taking time. And it could be streaming in. All right, awesome. So here we go. Here is a hope that this is going to work. And of course, this is always different, right? So the first thing I want to do before I even copy that over is I'm going to make a backup copy of my script.js because it's already working and I don't want to break that, right? So I'm going to do a copy and then I'm going to do a paste. And so script.copy.js, that's fine. I'm going to save that as my backup there. Now, I want to get this code that's in this block here. I want to get that in there. So here's a little trick. It's kind of gross, right? Because if I had Markdown, it might render this better. But what I want to do is I'm going to inspect this. So right click, inspect. And now I've got over here, I've got this little browser. If I click in here, I can kind of just copy that. So I've got that copied. I'm going to head over to my appmd. This is where I had stored the stuff before. So let's see what it's talking about. We'll paste it in here and you'll see it's got some really nice, we've got some stuff in here. It's really nice. So, and it's color coded and it returned the JavaScript. So nice. And it just returned the code. So let's grab this. I'm going to grab this code and I'm going to take it and I'm going to drop it. So again, shift while I'm selecting there, and then I'm going to copy. And I think this feels good. I don't know. It always feels good right at this point. So I'm going to save it. So now it's saved. Our server reloaded. So we've got a new server here. I'm going to refresh and I'm going to say, what do the Ghostbusters say? And hopefully, I'm going to keep this console up over here so we see if there's any JavaScript errors as well. I'm going to click send. What do the Ghostbusters say? That was pretty close, but you'll notice that it went inside the thing, right? It went inside the same message. It didn't give us the new thing, but it did stream in. The text did stream in. And if we take a look, we see here that it did stream in good. And then I see Ghostbusters. Like, who are you going to call Ghostbusters? That's what I was trying to get it to say. All right, so we've got that, but it's a little bit wrong. So we can keep going, right? So but why not, right? So I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to say I have a bug in this chat app code where it's writing the assistant message on top of the user message. Can you fix it? And what a weird time that we live in, right? So I'm going to give it that JavaScript again, and we're going to see if we get this, that we could do something like that. And of course, there are tools, and there is actually, we have a tutorial about this. So I'm going to give it the script that it just gave me that has the bug. I'm going to paste that in there, and hopefully it will fix it. You assist in fixing code, return only the code, return all of it. So I could say just the fixed thing because we want to copy and paste it. So we're going to pass that through. Let's see what happens. Let's see. So that's what it feels like when it's streamed. That's pretty nice, right? So see, it feels like it's moving really fast, and that's kind of the illusion that you want it to give. I hope it figured it out. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to inspect this again. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste that into this appmd so that you have what happened on my side if you ever need to look at this I will give that to you. And then I'm going to copy from this, I'm going to copy out the code that it gave us. And I hope it figured it out. Wouldn't it be cool if it was able to look at the code that was written by it and fix it? And that's the world that we're getting into now, right? This is really neat. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to save that. Here goes nothing. Give me some words of advice to stick with it. I'm building stuff. Uh-oh. What happened? Unexpected token at line 4. Let's see what happened in there. Huh, what's strange? Did I not copy that correctly, or did it just write the index was wrong? Just started out with a weird index. Started at 0. Let's try that. I'll refresh that. Let's try that again. Should give me some advice. I need it now on how to stick with it, because I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it till the end here. There we go. Set clear goals. Create a routine. And did you feel how that went in? Now, we should get this to be Markdown, but that's a different tutorial.
And now it's time to deploy. I hate to break it to you. All you need to do to deploy this application globally is npm run deploy. This will deploy to what we call region Earth. And now, just like that, you have an AI chatbot that is yours and free, unless you go wild. Your credits will reset each day, and you are backed by a super powerful, safe, and secure network with all sorts of tools ready for you to scale when you need to. More in the notes. How'd that feel? I hope you're feeling empowered to build more and more AI apps with all the models on Workers AI. Check out future tutorials in this series as we'll dive deeper and give you more building blocks to cook with. As your AI dad, I gotta say, I'm really proud of what you built. Keep it up, champ. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll see you real soon.